All right, you ready? So do you think there's a connection between the physical world and the spiritual world? One, I hope so, right? So I think that's one of the biggest philosophical questions, maybe the second biggest philosophical question. The biggest philosophical question is there a God? And the second biggest question is there a relationship between the spiritual world and the physical world? You know, when we go back to really as early as we can go in society, we see that there was this belief that there was this connection between the physical world and the spiritual world. We've always at some level had this belief. And yet some of the ways that belief has outpictured itself has been kind of weird. You know, there was a time when societies believed that thunder and lightning was a sign of an angry God. There were times when we believed that sacrifices were a way to appease an angry God. And now we have progressed spiritually to know that those were superstitions. But is there a level of superstition in our current belief that we could take up a notch or transform? Because I believe that the truth is that there is a connection between our physical world and our spiritual world. And the question is, how do we do that? How do we use spiritual principles and ideas to impact our physical world? And unity is one of our fundamental beliefs. In fact, it's the third of our basic principles, is this idea of the law of mind action. And the law of mind action states, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Will you say that with me? Thoughts in the mind produce after their kind. So the question is, does that mean every thought that you think is creating your life? I hope not. So then how do we know which thoughts are creative? You know, which thoughts are just habitual? Which thoughts do we have control over? Which ones can we change? Because the idea here is that I want us to take a deeper dive into Unity's basics. And there is a belief that Unity has that isn't often taught, that is deeper than the way most of us look at it. And so I want to go there today. I want to talk about this. And this is a quote from Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, almost 140 years ago. He said this: each thought is an identity that has a central ego around which all the elements revolve. Each thought has an identity, has a central ego around which all these elements revolve. Thoughts are capable of expressing themselves. That's a pretty big statement. Like that we're not just having these thoughts, but as we entertain these thoughts are actually capable of creating and expressing themselves. He goes on. Thoughts are capable of expressing themselves. Every thought clothes itself in a life form according to the character given to it by the thinker. The form is simply a conclusion of the thought. How many of you can think, if you've ever studied anything from Deepak Chopra, how many of you can remember a time, maybe you heard him speak or something on YouTube, or how many of you have heard him say, thoughts are things? Right? Thoughts are things. We all know that. And we go, yeah. But we don't really believe it. We believe that thoughts are symbolic representations of things. They're not real. They're just thoughts. And what's real is this. The only thing that's real is what you can touch and taste and experience. That's what's real. Thoughts aren't real. Thoughts are symbolic representations of things. And when you get serious, then you get down to the matter of things. and things are what count. But that's not what these spiritual teachers are saying to us. They're saying that actually thoughts are things and have a life force of their own that actually create themselves. So that every time we entertain a thought, we're actually giving expression to something in our life. Ed Rabel was one of my faculty on the faculty when I was in seminary. He said, one of the maximums of truth of metaphysics is that thoughts are things, that the mind of man is marshaling its facility and literally makes into living entity the thoughts that we entertain. So this is a very different understanding of the power of thought, right? But for most of us, we're having about 60,000 thoughts a day, right? And in our culture, we believe the more we think, the better off we are. So if we can get to 60,000 thoughts, and then we can get to 90,000 thoughts, that we're actually improving. But the problem is that out of those 90,000 thoughts, which thoughts are you empowering and giving life to and bringing into your world, bringing into your life? See, for most of us, our thoughts are so scattered and so random that we're not really enhancing them and experiencing the life that thoughts have. And I would also like to suggest that not all thoughts are equal. If you think the thought, I'm a Goomba, or I'm a dork. If you think the thought, I am a dork, is that as powerful a thought as I am a child of God? No. So what I want us to see is those ideas, we call them in Unity divine ideas, those divine ideas that are aspects of God, as we think those thoughts, as we entertain those thoughts, as we meditate on those thoughts, we actually bring those thoughts into our experience, and they actually take on life within our world, within ourselves, within our expression, within our every aspect of our life. And that over and over again, what's happening in the world around us is that our thoughts are so random. They're all over the place. And that because our thoughts are all over the place, we're not being as powerful as we could be in creating the life in the world that we like. Like when we did the meditation today, and I invited you into the spiritual idea, the divine idea of peace. How many of you had an experience of peace? How many really felt like you experienced peace in that meditation, right? And so what I want you to see, like that idea of peace is available to all of us, but only if we entertain it and take it into our consciousness and allow it to really do its full impact on our life. That whatever divine idea, whatever spiritual thought you hold on to, as you take hold of that thought and bring it into your soul, bring it into consciousness, your soul actually expands because that idea is an aspect of God and infinitely large. And so every time we want to change or transform our life, the question is, what is the aspect of God that I want to hold on to that would change my life? Is it peace? Is it joy? Is it abundance? Is it life? Is it light? Is it oneness? What is the spiritual quality that I am hungry for? And as I take hold of that spiritual quality and take it deep into my life, so it's part of my prayer life, part of my meditation time, so that every time my mind begins to wander, I bring it back to that one spiritual idea. And as you take that one idea deeper, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. But in our culture today, we're so busy thinking every possible thought that we don't really get the benefit of any of them. Like if our spiritual life is one day it's going this direction and the next day it's going this direction, we don't really get the benefit of any of that. And what if today you decide to take hold of one spiritual divine idea? Peace, love, joy, power, You pick. And you actually take that idea so that it becomes the dominant thought. And every time your mind begins to wander in 1,000 different directions, you bring it back to that one idea. No, I'm about love. Because if every day you focus on that one spiritual idea, whether it's peace or love or joy, if every day you focus on that one spiritual idea, that idea is going to reveal itself through you and literally transform your life because the power of that one idea. Now, could we do a different idea every day? Yes. But I don't think it'll be as impactful. I don't think it'll have the greatest way of changing or transforming your life, because if every day it's the idea of the day, you'll get a superficial understanding of all of them, but will your life really be profoundly changed? So what spiritual idea, what idea would you be willing to commit a day, a week, a month, a year, the rest of your life to fully experiencing? Can you imagine allowing love to be the central theme in your life, or peace, or joy, or abundance, or power, to allow one of these ideas to be the focus of your spiritual life day after day after day? Do you think that you would mature in love? Do you think that you would mature in power? Do you think you mature in peace? Because that idea would be the focus of what you're about. I'm going really old school now. We're going back to Plato. How many of you remember studying Plato? Anybody? A few of us, right? Plato had this theory of ideas, which were actually more real than the world of form. He believed that these ideas, these fundamental ideas, were actually the creator of form, that the world around us was just a shadow or image of the true reality, that ideas were actually more powerful than things. And I want you to see the distinction there, because we really believe that things are more powerful than ideas. But what we know is that when an individual takes hold of an idea and takes it deep, it transforms the world. You know, when our country declared its independence, that spiritual idea of independence was so powerful that it led revolution after revolution literally around the world, because one spiritual idea was embodied in one nation. If you want to change your life, if you want to impact the world, I invite you to really spend some time prayerfully considering what divine idea, what spiritual idea would you want to dive into until you become the embodiment of that idea. Ed Rabel was one of the instructors when I was in seminary. He said this: the world of things expresses poorly the activity, the very vitality character of thoughts, to which the mind gives life, substance, and intelligence. The many things around us are just the material world. If we compare our creative thought with these marvelous ability of the mind to actually cultivate and captivate creativity. See, our mind is not just here to create symbolic representations of things. Can our mind do that? Yes. But what if our mind is really here to lay hold of the mind of God, to take those ideas deep and in a profound way in our soul so that we become the living embodiment, the Word made flesh, as we read in John about Jesus. He was the Logos, the Word made flesh. That whatever idea you hold, over time, you become the embodiment of that idea. Now, can you embody 60,000 different thoughts every day? Well, I think it'd be a very schizophrenic version of us. Right? We'd be jumping around like crazy. right? And the real work here is that we are here to embody one idea at a time until we embody all the glory of God. Charles Fillmore, again, the co-founder of Unity, said this: "The mind of man is like a net catching every kind of idea, but it is man's privilege and duty under divine law to separate those that are good from those that are not good." See, one of the things that's happened that I believe Unity has been a part of is the dominant thought 150 years ago was basically negative thinking. It was a pessimistic attitude. And over the last 150 years, I believe that the dominant thought has gone from negative thinking to positive thinking. And that's a huge deal. If you've been focused on negative thinking your whole life and you begin to entertain positive thoughts, that is a game changer, right? But it's not the fullness of what Unity's here to teach. We're not just here to help people get positive. We're here to help people actually entertain the mind of God, to entertain divine spiritual ideas, to make them to make ourselves embodiment of these ideas. I'm going to give you a teaching of Jesus. In Matthew 13:47, Jesus gives us a kingdom of heaven as like. And what Jesus tries to do is use words and images and allegory to describe the kingdom of heaven in a way that people can understand it. And I think one of those teachings that probably has been the most obscure is this idea in Matthew 13:47. Here it is. "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net which is thrown into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. When it is full, men draw it to shore, sit down, and sort out the good into vessels, but the bad they throw back." And I want you to see, like, if somebody said to you, well, the kingdom of heaven is like a big net. And you throw it, you bring a lot of fish, you bring them to shore, you throw out the bad ones, and you keep the good ones. Okay, so how is that like the kingdom of heaven? Right? Because it's just a little obscure. It's a little confusing. It doesn't make sense until we bring it into this realm of thought. And if we bring it into the realm of thought, it makes absolute sense that our soul is a huge net. And as we gather, or as we go through each day, we're going to have 60,000 thoughts. Not all of those thoughts are good thoughts. You throw back the ones you don't want. You keep the ones you want. But over time, what happens is that you actually build the discipline to manage your mind in a way that makes a difference in your life. You begin to decide what is the thought that you want to entertain, and you entertain it day after day, week after week, until your life becomes the embodiment of that idea. And what's the good news is, because you're a spiritual being, you have complete free will. You get to focus on any idea you want. You get to focus on life or love or joy or peace or abundance. You get to focus on oneness. You get to focus on any idea. But as you pick the idea and you stay focused on it, over time, you become a more powerful expression of that divine idea. The activity of God actually expresses that idea in you in greater and greater ways. So what one thought would you be willing to entertain for the next year, for the next 5 years, for the rest of your life? Would you be interested in living peace, or living love, or living joy, or living abundance, or living oneness, or living light? That you get to pick the aspect of God. And as you pick that aspect of God, you become the living, moving expression of the divine. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Together? Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And as we do that over and over and over again, we actually mature in God. we become the living examples of all that God is. Will you pray with me? And I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God. And today we just open the question and say to Spirit, if I was going to pick one idea, one spiritual idea, one divine idea, one aspect of you, what idea would you have me pick? What word, what thought would become the focus of my life? And could I entertain that idea over and over again until I became the living embodiment of your word? The living embodiment of your Spirit. In the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. God bless you all. Have a great week. Oh, and this is the time of giving of our gifts and tithes. As we move into this time of prayer and meditation, I invite you to take a deep breath. And the focus this morning is peace. The peace of God. The peace of the divine that rests within all of us. That we're all created in God's image and in our God's likeness. Peace. I am peace. We begin by speaking that to every cell of our body. Peace. Peace. I am peace. I want you to speak that to every organ, your shoulders, your neck, your back, your arms. To speak to every system of your body. Peace. Peace. I am peace. And allow your body to deeply relax. Allow all the tension to simply drain out of the system. Peace. Peace. I am peace. And now we move our focus to the mind. And all the thoughts that we think in a day, the happy thoughts, the sad thoughts, all the thoughts, we say to our mind, peace, peace. I am peace. Now we speak to our heart. And all the feelings that we feel throughout our day. And we say to our heart, peace, peace. I am peace. Today we let go of everything. Every thought, every belief, every story, every drama. And we move into peace. I am peaceful. Deeply, profoundly peaceful. And the more that we feel the peace of God, the more we feel a connection to all of life. I am peace. Peace is a divine quality of God. And sometimes we spend so much energy being anxious and afraid, thinking, worrying, planning, while peace is always available. I am peaceful. I am peaceful. Deeply, profoundly peaceful. And the more that we move into peace, the more we feel our connection with God. That we feel the busyness all around us, and yet our heart and mind and soul and body can be deeply at peace. Peace. I am peace. Jesus said, in the world there is tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Today we take on the peace of Christ. The peace that knows that all things are working together for God's highest good. I am peace. And in our time of silence, I invite you to focus on peace and to go even deeper into your experience of God. Peace. 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 I am peace. In the name and through the power of the living Spirit of God, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. And now will you join with me as we sing together our Lord's Prayer?